Hey, it's Mike here, and today my response to what was originally titled Zero Plants is Healing People by What I've Learned. I've responded several times to him, and for some reason he changed it to Why This is Healing People, which is, maybe gonna lure in some more unsuspecting victims. As you might know, he's a massive channel, so of course the video got a ton of views, but as usual, he either misrepresents the science, ignores the best science, and then in this case ignores, virtually all of the negative health cases of carnivore dieters. And in case you can't tell, this is obviously a pro-carnivore video that he's made. Now, it might as well be called Why a Carnivore Diet is Great. So let's just get right into it. And I will say, this is either my 5th or 6th response video to What I've Learned, which over the years has just become really a pro-meat channel. A lot of times it's a video, defending processed and red meat, saying it's not carcinogenic. The WHO is just wrong. All those scientists wrong. Or talking about why beef is good for the planet and why plant-based protein sucks and on and on. I've all those videos and I'll link some below. But since he's become such a blatantly pro-meat channel, I actually think he should change his name and just be transparent. I mean, like, I'm Mike the Vegan. I could change my name, but I'm trying to be transparent. So, I have some ideas here. The first one is What I've Lard, because of his love for animal fat. Yes, at one point in the video, he straight up takes a bite of a stick of butter. Other potentials include What I've Lost, in parentheses, time, or What I've Lobotomized, comma, you. Okay, I'm just joking around. Let's get to his actual points. That's what's important to respond to.
What if vegetables and other plants were causing all your problems?
Wait, you mean I can live out my childhood dream of not having to eat my vegetables? Tell me more.
I lost 52 pounds.
I lost 50 pounds.
Lost over 100 pounds.
100 pounds.
Lost 105 pounds.
I lost 125 pounds.
I'm never hungry.
I did meth and lost 100 pounds. Why meth is healing people? In all seriousness, we can get some good short-term results with something that is potentially very dangerous in the long term. And I think a story that perfectly illustrates this is by cardiologist Danielle Bellardo on Dr. Mike, saying this.
I had a patient in residency who put their diabetes into remission, improved their hemoglobin A1C. This patient went from eating just a ton of processed foods, whatever, and went on a cocaine binge for a few months, eating Twinkies, candy bars, but low calorie, and their hemoglobin A1C and their high-res CRP totally normalized.
Yeah.
From that anecdote, would we be universally recommending cocaine and Twinkies as a diet? Of course not, right? We can't extrapolate from anecdotes.
Yeah, they went on a cocaine binge and really put their diabetes into remission functionally, really by starving themselves, and obviously not a good long-term strategy.
I don't have that brain fog.
I came off my antidepressants.
After about 3 months, it was like no more meds at all.
My depression is gone, okay?
Within a week, I was 25% less anxious in the morning. Within 2 weeks, 75%, and I've been better every single day.
I used to get severe migraines that are just now gone.
And this is where I think it's interesting, because if we just want to go off anecdotes, why does he completely ignore all of these negative anecdotes, like, say, 50 Plus Beauty, a YouTuber named Beth who had a stroke on a carnivore diet. Thankfully, she is using Dr. Esselstyn to go on a whole food plant-based diet now to remediate that. But I think it might just be illuminating to quickly read some carnivore forum posts of people sharing their health experiences in the other direction. After 3 weeks of being on a carnivore diet, I developed rosacea. It started under my eye and kept getting worse and worse. I developed gum disease while on keto. I had to have laser surgery that cost me $6,000. My gums bled terribly, and I believe I had scurvy. The periodontist said I had significant bone loss in a short period of time. I had ocular migraines, blah, blah, blah. The ophthalmologist said my eyes look like a 90-year-old. This person says, I hope someone can help me. I'm miserable. I'm about 2.5 months in with this way of eating. Recently, I've had such severe joint pain, I nearly fall over trying to pick something up off the floor. This commenter says, I ate 2 kilograms of meat daily, nearly 5 pounds of meat, and still went from a muscular 6'3" tall, 190 pounds to a squalid 172 pounds. My girlfriend said I look like I had HIV. Screw the carnivore diet. This commenter says, I was always a lean dude, gave carnivore a try, but after only 2 months, I started getting fat around my breast, went to my GP, and my estrogen levels were through the roof, and testosterone levels in 300s. Never doing this BS again. And really, this is the tip of the Meatberg. Zero plants is making people sick. There are hundreds of posts like this, and they're chronicled by Carnivore Cringe if you want to check more out. But he goes on and really throughout the video is promoting Jordan Peterson and his daughter Michaela Peterson, now Michaela Fuller. For example, he touts claims by Jordan Peterson about like curing depression, another claim that Michaela made about Jordan. However, we can see that he started a carnivore diet in 2018, and then he was severely having mental issues in 2019. We have reports of him wanting to unalive himself. This is a sad situation. There's a lot more going on. And he was eventually institutionalized to help withdraw with his benzo medication. And Michaela specifically said she cured her dad's mood disorder when the evidence like that is clearly showing it's not. And even goes as far as to push Michaela Peterson's TEDx talk that was removed for misinformation.
In August of 2021, Michaela Peterson was invited to do a TED Talk.
And he goes and says, all these vegan people are allowed to make anecdotal claims about how a vegan diet improved their situation.
Well, TED didn't have any problem uploading people's personal anecdotes about how a vegan diet helped them. In fact, TED has uploaded at least 43 different talks on veganism.
But a lot of what he shows is just like ethical vegan talks, and then a talk by Dr. Michael Greger, where I quickly counted at least 12 studies cited. But there's a reason people joke about Michaela's lion diet being the lion or lying diet, because the claims that she makes are often easily refutable. For example, saying that she went off all medication in one video because of her diet, but then in the very next one saying, hey, I actually was trying some panic attack medication, etc.
I'm pretty anti-pharmaceutical, and you guys know why, considering my background. But I did try clonazepam a couple of times this summer to try to stop panicking. It was not good.
And really her main claims are that the carnivore diet gets rid of autoimmune diseases. We don't know in particular what food she could have been allergic to or whatever and had an immune response to, but it is the case that a lot of people going on the carnivore diet, like in this post, for example, feel like they were sold a bill of goods that just wasn't true. They had worse autoimmune results or even got autoimmune issues on a carnivore diet. And that lines up with this study talking about how increased meat consumption is associated with 2 to 3 times the risk of rheumatoid arthritis, depending on the model you look at. I also can't help but laugh with what I've learned just walking around with like a giant piece of meat in his hand with a straight face. How does he do it? Well, he goes through some history, shows this original carnivore diet.
For 4.5 months, I lived on literally nothing but fish and water.
And I'm just gonna go ahead and say, this guy ain't looking too hot.
It still seems to be a puzzle why people like Shawn Baker, who has been eating mainly just cooked steaks for 7 years, mysteriously doesn't have scurvy.
One thing that's massively missing from his video is just, again, all of the stories of people quitting a carnivore diet because of negative health consequences and talking about that. He briefly mentions one person at 26 minutes into the video, the last minute of the video. You'll see later. But one good example and really response to this is Lily Kane, who is a YouTuber who, still eats a lot of meat and stuff, but quit the carnivore diet, talking about how influencers would claim to eat a super pure carnivore diet and then turn the camera off and then put a bunch of like plant-based spices and stuff on their meat. And when Shawn Baker, his example there, he uses pepper, which, has a meager amount of vitamin C, just worth mentioning, as well as, having rosemary on the cover of his book. I wonder why he put that there, maybe because it looks nice. Not sure how much he really eats of all that stuff, but this is likely why more people aren't getting scurvy. But there are people that are getting scurvy, and we had that initial popular story of James Blunt getting scurvy on a carnivore diet, but I think a more valid documentation of it is from this doctor who quit his carnivore diet.
Vitamin C, interestingly, this is something that I do want to talk about. So vitamin C, prior to starting carnivore, my vitamin C levels were 37. About 3 months into carnivore, I wanted to check them, and they were 12. Now, 12 is actually very low.
And he also had something which, on its head, doesn't sound that scary, corkscrew hairs.
I was developing issues with coiled hairs and ingrowing hairs at the top of my legs.
Where your hairs grow in these little corkscrews, but what causes it is scary, and that is that without vitamin C, you can't make collagen properly, and then you get essentially like this weird little micro bleeding and lack of structure around your hair follicles, which leads them to come out as little corkscrews. That was from him eating only meat. He quit his carnivore diet and resolved it.
But clearly, I was vitamin C deficient. Whenever I had oranges, to bump up the vitamin C, it went away.
Anyway, what I've learned then gets into his digestive health claims.
Another study published just last year found constipation to be correlated with major depression in American adults.
Oh yeah, this study could have just found a connection for overall poor lifestyle results, not being able to poop and not being happy. Can both be results of having a really unhealthy diet. But yeah, he continues on with the anecdotes, the official carnivore currency.
Interestingly, you'll find plenty of anecdotes online of people claiming to have resolved their gut issues and depression on a meat-only diet.
All bloating and indigestion, GERD, anything like that, it's completely gone.
This is very effective for dealing with depression.
You do feel a level of both mental clarity, and then even digestive health was really good after the first 8 days.
Now I no longer suffer with anxiety. I no longer suffer with depression.
I think I'm gonna start Anecdote Coin, the official cryptocurrency for carnies. He then does a compilation of ex-vegans talking about their gut issues on a plant-based diet, which, in rapid succession seems persuasive, but we're going to talk about. Let's see what they say.
Hurting my stomach bloating.
Bloated a lot.
Bloating.
Bloating.
Really bad gastrointestinal issues.
Digestive illnesses like this that were so severe.
My intestines were actually bleeding.
Really bad pain after I would eat, blood in my stool.
Now again, this sounds shocking, rapid fire, in your face, horrible issues on a vegan diet, but we can just actually look at some of these people. For example, Megan Bowen talking about her intestines bleeding. Well, she says in that same video that she has a soy allergy. Here she is.
So the allergy and intolerance tests came back, and then we found out, one, that I'm allergic to soy, which is why even though when I cut down on my fiber and I was eating all that high protein tofu, things just got worse, really bad.
So it wasn't just fiber that made her intestines bleed, which is a clinically insane thing to imply, which was really misleading as well, which, I think we have another potential name change for him. What I've lied. That has a good ring to it. Anyway, we also have other cases like Ravana or Giovanna Mendoza, who went on long extended fasts as well as drinking a ton of straight alkaline water, which could have led to her SIBO that she got after years of being on a vegan diet, right after doing that stuff. Kind of coincidental. Or Casey, aka Vegetable Police, who ironically just recently went back to a fully plant-based diet, it appears. Here's this video titled "Eggs Suck, I'm Going Vegan."
Oh, hi, do you know Eggs? Are you friends with him? Can you just send him a message for me? Yeah, you suck. I'm not eating you anymore.
He then cites what is perhaps one of the most popular studies to cite in the carnivore movement, talking about how, this constipation from this one study was actually improved by eating a zero fiber diet.
This case control study looked at 63 different patients with constipation, and they gave them a high or low or zero fiber diet. As we can see, people experienced worsened symptoms when on a high fiber diet. Then a reduced fiber diet actually reduced symptoms.
So the question is, what happened to those who had zero fiber in their diet? This is not a mistake. I didn't just forget to put something in the slide there. Not one patient on the zero fiber diet had any symptoms. That's quite astonishing, really.
Oh my God, fiber sucks. We should all give up fiber if we're constipated. This would be completely against the best evidence we have. Well, first of all, this is a study that describes itself as a preliminary study. It's small. That high fiber group that he is pointing at there has 6 people in it. I can't speak to why that study got those results, but I can speak to actual better newer data, like a meta-analysis on 16 randomized control trials saying, quote, fiber supplementation is effective at improving constipation. It wasn't every single time we add fiber, people's constipation gets worse. So, I don't know what was going on with that small preliminary study, but we also have, in terms of things like anal bleeding, a meta-analysis on hemorrhoids showing that increasing fiber reduced anal bleeding by 50%. Now he goes on the evolutionary rant about how meat helped us grow brains, which I've responded to so many times in so many other videos, not as relevant here, but he did make one point that I want to respond to here.
Our gut is excellent at completely digesting meat, thanks to our stomach acid, which is actually even stronger than many carnivorous animals.
Notice that claim didn't have any science behind it, and that's why it's so ironic, because we have a major issue with animal proteins making it past our stomach, past our small intestine, into our large intestine, our gut, where protein fermentation can occur, even though it's not supposed to. And this is partially an issue because our digestive system is so much longer than carnivores that are out there. We end up getting this putrefaction, this rotting of meat in our gut, which leads to the creation of ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, which can cause, oxidative stress and do damage to the gut wall, even eventually DNA mutations, which can, increase colorectal cancer, or even cause it. And in my next video, we're gonna be looking at a study that looked at 20,000 people's gut microbiome, comparing vegans to meat eaters. And one of those types of bacteria that was higher in meat eaters was Allostipes putridinus. Yes, like putrefied, and it is higher in colorectal cancer patients. It is linked to inflammatory bowel disease, and it is literally putrefying meat. And so it's not all just coming from me. We have this paper mentioning that, yes, this protein fermentation is one of the reasons that red and processed meat cause cancer. I just think it's hilarious that he's trying to make an appeal to nature argument that eating a bunch of red meat is the best for our health, when it literally is him just saying, base your entire diet off something that is a carcinogen for our bodies. In particular, saying that our meat digestion is so great when it's our lack of meat digestion that fuels that cancer. And he later goes on to mention a study by Shawn Baker, which at least he says that it is a survey, which, it sounds like there's such great health improvements.
2021 study that surveyed 2,029 carnivore dieters. 531 people said that they were doing the carnivore diet specifically to try and treat gut issues. I'd bet the average doctor would worry that this diet would worsen their patient's gut issues. But the complete opposite happened. Almost everyone, 97% of 531 people, improved or completely resolved their gut condition by eating a zero fiber, zero plant food diet.
But yes, this is just a survey which has an atrocious level of selection bias. Really, it's almost as if I was like, hey, everybody on my YouTube community tab, go and fill out this survey to make a vegan diet look good, make a vegan diet look as healthy as possible, and then publishing it in a journal. Like, I don't think that what I've learned would trust that. But when Shawn Baker gets a bunch of people from his Facebook group, mailing list, etc., to go and fill out a diet questionnaire and health questionnaire in which they are highly motivated to make a carnivore diet look as good as possible, to impress Shawn Baker, etc. And it's also the case that people who had a bad experience with a carnivore diet, who died from something, like whether it was a stroke or a heart attack, or just quit because they had a horrible time, aren't going to be continuing to follow and see the link to this and then sign up for it.
The carnivore diet was so effective that 74% of these people completely resolved their diabetes or insulin resistance.
So yeah, it resolved all these cases of diabetes, but what is really going on, because saturated fat, which is high in animal products, can cause insulin resistance. And of course, they're not eating carbohydrates. They're eating like 85% of calories from fat. Their body is simply just not having to react to carbohydrates. If you gave these people even some normally healthy whole carbohydrates, they would probably have a horrible response to them. They are still highly insulin resistant. They're just not eating carbs. And another really important point to make about Shawn Baker brings me to a recent debate he had with Dr. Garth Davis, who is, a great guy, great points that he makes. But in that debate, Shawn Baker goes ahead and straight up says that everything he says on social media is really just for entertainment purposes.
Put the caveat, the social media is kind of for entertainment purposes only in many ways.
Like all of these health claims he makes on, and he also goes on to say that he doesn't even know if a carnivore diet is going to be healthy in the long term because we don't have studies on it.
I don't know. I will say, I don't know if my diet is going to make somebody live longer. I don't know if it's going to either prevent or increase the likelihood of some disease, because we just don't have the data that shows that now.
And this is all despite constantly having a feed of this information about how, meat helps you live long, and on and on and on. And Dr. Matthew Nagra just made a great point of showing all of the posts that he's made.
He continuously puts out information like this, and this, and this, and this. I can keep going. Okay, I'll stop after this one.
A 2021 study found that people who don't eat meat have a significantly higher risk of depression and anxiety.
Fun fact, the study that he just showed is funded directly by the beef industry, and I would just contrast that with this Australian study, for example, in which vegans had the lowest level of anxiety and depression, and the meat eaters actually averaged averaged in the slight depression category in terms of their depressive symptom score. And of course, he's looking for some mechanism for this connection that was seen in the beef industry funded study. But the reality is that several studies tie red meat consumption, even unprocessed red meat, to increased levels of inflammation. It's the mechanism he chooses here. And we have this study showing increased C-reactive protein, this study showing the same thing, and this study as well. Kaboom, kaboom. Now, there could be various causes to this. One can be just getting all that excess heme iron from eating meat, which can oxidize in your bloodstream and do damage there. And then we also just have putting people on a vegan diet leading to lowering C-reactive protein, as this study found, this trial. And yes, it is the case that despite us evolving to eat as much meat as possible, as he mentioned in the past, how it really just made us human, if you're eating the diet he's saying is so great, you really have to be taking electrolytes because our system becomes so out of balance. And I've talked about the mechanisms with carbs and electrolytes in the past. Carbs balance our electrolytes.
But after a year and a half, I quit the carnivore diet.
Because he was having electrolyte issues, his free testosterone was lower, and his thyroid function was lower.
But yeah, like Paul Saladino, low testosterone levels and electrolyte issues are one of the many complaints we see over and over and over again of negative health outcomes on a carnivore diet. In conclusion, what I've learned has been pushing meat for a while, but it looks like he's finally fully gone off the carnivore diet deep end. Yeah, informationally, he really was just diving into a giant vat of rotten meat. In terms of the science he cited, really a lot like this guy who on Instagram posts himself eating 22-day-old aged beef from a jar. That was actually his second try. The first time he ended up getting a Campylobacter infection. So yeah, these carnivore dieters are not all right. And again, what I've learned is just relying heavily on anecdotes. And those positive anecdotes are really just pushed by all of these meat fluencers to make a carnivore diet look good, to sell more ebooks, to sell more programs, to sell all this crap. And Willie is citing some research here and here. The higher quality research just shoots that down entirely, whether we're talking about constipation, inflammation, or meat protein digestion, and on and on. Of course, he once again fails to mention any of the negative environmental or animal impacts that this diet has. It's absurd. I have entire videos on that, but it's like just not even gonna mention it. And again, we even have Shawn Baker, the main promoter of a carnivore diet, saying he doesn't even know if it's gonna be healthy long-term, and all of what he's doing on social media just for entertainment, which really is the most ridiculous thing a medical doctor could say when putting out health information to people who are making lifestyle changes based off that information. Anyway, let me know down below what you think about all of this. There are points in there I didn't have time to respond to, so let me know if you want me to respond to any of them in the comments. And of course, feel free to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.